on a podcast called Jellison Podcast.
First ever type 1 diabetic in UFC history.
Doing fine. Nice to be with you.
Get out! He's like, yeah.
My tunnel vision and my periphery, I'm like all field.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when your team.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Jellison Podcast. Today, very special guest, Mr. Glover Quin. Glover, how are you?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on doing this. Just to get started, I know recently how I was, I've on Instagram, I've seen you've been posting a lot of like coaching type stuff and things like that. So talk a little bit about what that is exactly for people that don't know and kind of how you got into it.
So I've been coaching my oldest son. He's 11. This little youth football team. So 6th grade, 11, 12-year-old, and just kind of came about, just being there. I didn't plan on coaching at first. I was just going to be a dad and enjoy watching my kids play. And then as I'm sitting there just kind of watching, checking things out, just kind of felt like it was a lot of things that could have been done differently or, could use a little help in regards to some things. And so the coaches were cool about it. So I was able to come on and, kind of help coach the team, do some things that, that was needed for the boys. And so it's actually been fun, man. It's, in doing this, I've really noticed that, youth football coaches are needed. Football is a game that's dangerous, if not taught the right way, if not approached the right way. And so the development of these kids and teaching them the right way, teaching them how to play the game the right way is something that's important. You look at basketball, you look at baseball, you have a lot of AAU basketball, or you have select baseball where you have former pros that will come back and start organizations or coach these kids. And, they're able to teach these kids how to play the right way, help them develop mentally and physically in that particular sport. But when you get to football, they may have it, but, you don't hear as much about select football or AAU football or, those type of leagues where you might have a former pro or a high-level college guy that comes back and starts an organization for football. So you have a bunch of dads or people that volunteer to coach youth football, and it's very commendable of those guys to give their time and effort. But people can only teach really what they know, right? So if you don't have a high level of education in a particular field, it's hard to teach at a higher level. But if you have a higher level of education, then you can teach at a higher level. And so I think that's kind of something that needs to be brought to, more youth football programs, even in like the schools. You look at middle school football, especially in the public system, middle school football, high school football, a lot of these guys that are coaching are teachers, right? They're teachers really, that take on the extra task of coaching a football team, So when those adults go home at nighttime, what are they doing? Are they thinking about the game plan and the football program? Or are they thinking about the history lesson that they got to teach tomorrow and grading the test that the kids took today? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you get these coaches that's been sitting in the classroom for, 7 hours teaching math class or whatever. Now they got to go outside and coach a football team. I kind of feel like, either way, somebody is getting the short end of the stick, right? Either the players are not getting as much as they can get out of the coach because the coach just don't have that much time, or the students aren't getting as much out of the teacher because he's probably more invested in football, so he's not devoting that much time to the classroom. So I just think that's a lot that they put on those teachers. And so I wish it was a way that, you could have former NFL guys or, like I said, high-level college guys that really want to coach, but they really don't want to coach at the NFL level because of the time commitment and family and stuff like that. May not want to coach at the college level, but they really, have a passion for teaching the game, passion for the kids, and they would love to coach some middle school football or some high school football right there in their community, be pillars, impact those kids. But they don't want to teach a class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't want to be a teacher. They want to be a football coach and help the kids. So that definitely will be something that I'll be interested in. But right now, I just coach my kids.
You went on a little rant there. I loved it though, because you got me thinking about all the coaches like back at my high school who, I mean, they might have played in college. They probably didn't, honestly. And they think they're all that and they know everything. I mean, when you have someone like, I don't know why they didn't have you coaching from the get-go, like from the first practice, be like, oh, maybe you want to come in here and talk a little bit.
I didn't sign up to coach. And, with the youth level nowadays, especially with all the things that has come up with, youth sports and the harassment cases, especially with the women, they don't just let anybody just come off the sidelines and coach, even if you are, are a former player. So I had to go through all of the protocols that everybody else had to go through. I had to take all of the coaching certification classes, go through all the background check stuff. So that took a little time. But like I said, at first, I didn't even have plans on coaching. I really just, because I don't coach my kids' baseball teams anymore. I just get to go and be a dad and watch them play. And so I was planning on doing that for football. It just, it kind of took a different turn. So I'm happy. I'm happy, that I decided to go and coach, and we're playing pretty good right now.
100%. I think one issue just with kind of the thing that you brought up was obviously money and probably you can't pay some of the people to come in and just be coaches. So that's kind of why they do the double dip and things like that.
Right. And so I kind of feel like, depending on who these players are, a lot of these guys will probably volunteer, man. I mean, they volunteer and coach youth football. Why wouldn't they, a lot of these guys will probably volunteer, but I also don't feel like it would be that difficult for the NFL to put programs in place to be able to pay these guys, because it's only going to benefit the league. For one, you got more players that can stay involved in the game, right? But then if you're teaching and developing these young kids, that's just going to produce more better players for the league. So I'm sure that they can find a way, with all the money that they make, with all the benefits and all that stuff, to have like a high school coaching fund to where the school or somebody, they're not even responsible for paying the coaches. We're going to pay these guys, like I said, to keep them involved in the game, keep their impact on the game, and, just have a little section or brand or whatever where you're supporting more guys, more players coaching at the high school or the middle school or the youth football levels. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you need to hit up the league about that idea. Yeah.
So I think it's something there, because I think in the private school sector, you can probably just be a coach. Because and I don't know for sure, but I mean, Phillip Rivers just retired and he's already a high school coach. I mean, I seriously doubt Phillip Rivers teaches a class. You know what I'm saying? But he may be an AD. I don't know. But I know he's a high school football coach. But I think it's a private school. And so I know their rules may be a little different than public school.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just kind of talking about your short little kind of journey in coaching. I mean, what does it mean to you to be able to have this type of impact on on younger kids and teach them the right way to play the game, like you mentioned earlier?
I mean, it just means a lot to me because a lot of these kids are talented. They're just raw. You know what I'm saying? They haven't been taught how to play a lot of them. You know, when you look at, like I said, you look at baseball, you look at basketball. You know, my kids play baseball, and you know, I take them to pitching lessons. Right? They go to a former pro that was a pitcher, and he works with them and shows them the techniques of pitching, how to pitch, how to throw the ball, how to control yourself, right? I take them to somebody and they get hitting lessons, or they teach them how to hit, how to do all these different things. You go, you get, you know, you can get fielding lessons, all these different things where they're teaching these kids how to do it. I'm sure if your son wants to be a golfer, they probably have a golf pro that teaches them how to do it, right? You have it in basketball. They teach these kids how to dribble, how to shoot, right? But a lot of times football is looked at as an athletic sport. So the only people that really get the individual training like that at a young age really is quarterbacks, right? They teach those guys how to throw because they want their kids to be a quarterback. But for the average wide receiver or average defensive back or average O lineman or D lineman, those guys aren't going to somebody at a young age getting taught how to play wide receiver. They're just going outside in the backyard and playing with their friends, and they can either catch it or they can't. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It's just not as widely talked about or known as it is with the other sports, especially at the youth level. And so for me to be able to, you know, see these kids, you know, daily when we practice, show them, help them, you know, teach them, inspire them, all those different things, you know, it means a lot to me. It's been fun. It's been cool. And like I said, it just keeps you just interested in the game even more because you understand that you're impacting, you know, hopefully some of the next, you know, college stars or, you know, hopefully NFL stars. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, around the area I grew up in, I mean, you can go get hitting lessons, go get trained in basketball skills, but I don't really know a whole lot. Maybe it's because I didn't play football myself. I stopped when I was in third grade because I was soft. But I mean, I don't really know a whole lot of like individual trainers that teach you how to play those positions. But I think it's also something to be said for like when you're that young, when you're only 11 years old. I mean, your body's still growing, obviously. So you don't know where you're going to fit in on the field. So, I mean, you could get like strength and conditioning training. I think that would be beneficial, but I don't know if it's necessarily,
well, I think, you know, for me, I think when you've played it, especially for me, yeah, you don't know exactly where a kid is going to fit in at. But you can look at body types, you can look at personalities, you can look at a lot of these different things and say, okay, you're going to be a skill guy, right? Yeah. So as a skill guy, yeah, at this young of an age, you know, you're working on the things to be a wide receiver or to be a defensive back. But also you got the player that's like, hey, I play wide receiver. That's what I want to be. And you look at their body type, they have that body type, right? Then you have some guys that's like, I'm an athlete, man. I play wide receiver, I play DB, I play it all. So now you got skill guys, right? But then you have the bigger guys who are ultra aggressive. You're like, okay, well, you probably can be a D lineman. Then you have the other bigger guys who are not as athletic. They may be an O lineman, right? So, I mean, you can work on different things to, you know, combat both, you know, an offensive position and a defensive position, because at the younger levels, you know, you're probably gonna have to play both sides, right? And then as they get a little older, they can start to realize and see, all right, hey, I was you know, a safety, right? But now I hit a growth spurt, I'm a little bigger, so I could probably be like an outside linebacker. Okay, well, now that you still have that skill set as a safety, that means you were athletic enough to be even considered that you could play safety. But the fact that you've gotten bigger and you want to transition to outside linebacker, you can still use those skills because nowadays they need and want those hybrid type guys that's big enough to cover these big tight ends, but also athletic enough to where they can match up on a wide receiver and do all those different things. So it definitely won't hurt you to have those skills, even if you get a little bigger and just, change positions.
It is kind of cool to see the way the league's kind of going on defense with all the rules and everything like that. I'm sure you have an opinion on that, but seeing all the hybrid guys and just the way the positions have changed, like Darius Leonard wouldn't exist 10 years ago. I mean, he's walking around at like 216, I think it was. Like, that's light, and he's one of the best linebackers in the league, if not the best.
Right. I mean, that's what the league has come to. It's became, more of an offensive league, obviously. So when you're dealing with that, you're getting these offensive skill guys, man, that are really good, really athletic. These tight ends who are really athletic. And that's just advancing the game, man, because now, like I said, you see some of these younger kids who are bigger kids, but they're athletic. And so they're telling these kids and showing these kids and putting these kids, hey, you could be that tight end like a Travis Kelce, that Rob, those guys who are big that, may would have gotten thrown as an offensive tackle or defensive end, but now they're athletic enough and the game has, shown that it could be done. So they're putting those guys at tight ends, or you're getting, just bigger, freakier athletes, right? So you need some of those guys that can match up and cover those guys. So the game has definitely changed. Those big linebackers, 250, 200-pound, like, it's hard for them to cover and match up with these little spread offenses, these little fast jitterbug type players. So, they're weeding them out the game. But it's the same way with the fullbacks, right? On offense, you don't have a lot of offenses, a lot of teams that even carry a fullback on the roster nowadays. And if they do, he's not a 250-pound guy. He's probably just a 225, 30-pound guy that's just a hard-nosed running back. But they'll play him as a fullback. But the Mike Allstotts, like those big time, the Tom Rathman, those guys don't exist anymore, So it's just crazy how the league has changed and went to that. But like I said, when you start dealing with the league and the big business, offense is what's going to sell tickets, right? People, back in the days, people would love to have a 6-3 game, right? Like, man, that's a great hard-nosed, hard-hitting football game. Nowadays, if a game is 6-3, it could be a hard-nosed game, but the fans aren't really as excited because they want to see the deep touchdowns. They want to see the big plays. They want to see that excitement, that part of the game. So the game changes. That's why a lot of the rules favor the offensive guys, because that's what sells the tickets.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, for you, how do you look back on the time that you came into the league in 2009 and kind of how the game's evolved since then?
I mean, it's definitely, there's definitely been a lot of rule changes, obviously. The offenses are, definitely more evolved, the players, the systems, it's just new. It's just new age. I think I came in kind of on the end of the old school era, the beginning of the new school era, right? Like, I came in 2009, then you had 10, then you had the lockout, right? So then when you start looking at 11, 12, that's when you're getting into like that new age, 13, 14, those guys started coming in. And then now, those guys have really taken over. Social media has gotten a lot bigger. All these different things, these different platforms that just allow for the game to kind of just change. But, I mean, when you're in it, you kind of just grow and evolve with the game. You don't really notice as many things because you're in it every day. It's kind of like when you got a child, or you know what I'm saying, when you see them every day, sometimes it's hard to notice that they've grown an inch or 2 inches. You know what I'm saying? But when you go 2 years without seeing your niece or your nephew, you see them again, you be like, geez, man, you done got tall, right? So it's kind of the same thing with the league. When you're in it every day and you're playing it, you don't even really notice a lot of the stuff just because it's just happening. But when you remove yourself from the game for a few years and then you go back and look, you're like, man, this is different, man. Golly. So that's kind of how it is. It's just the offenses are way more open and spread and way more advanced. I definitely do feel like that. So it's caused the defenses to have to be able to adjust and be the same way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for you and your position, the league's made it damn near impossible for you guys. I mean, how difficult was it to the later years of your career with all the not targeting, but just all those types of penalties kind of becoming more prevalent? How hard was that to navigate with such a small margin for error?
It really wasn't that bad to me, just because, I mean, for me, I was trying to protect myself, so, launching at somebody's head, I mean, to hit somebody in the head, especially when they're up, you're probably hitting them with your head as well. So I was always trying to avoid that for my own protection. So, I had a couple hits that, I got fined for, or, some contact incidental in my opinion. But it really wasn't that difficult for me just because I wasn't trying to do that. For some guys, it's an adjustment. It's difficult. It's hard for them to make those split-second decisions. But like I said, for me, it wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, for you, I mean, you were remarkably durable during your career. I mean, I don't think you missed a game after your rookie season. I mean, what do you attribute that to? Because that's to play 10 years in the league and to miss 4 games total. That's unheard of.
Well, I missed one. I missed one game total. I missed one game in 2009. But I I didn't start my first 3 games of my career. Then I started week 4. And so that's probably why you're seeing the numbers look like that. But yeah, I only missed one game. I played 159 out of 160 total. And then I started 156 out of the 159 because I didn't start the first 3. But when people ask me how did I do it, I always tell them like it was God, man. Like it was God. I was blessed. I was fortunate. I did a lot of things on my end to take care of my body, to train my body. I was very strict and disciplined, especially during season. I trained hard in the off seasons. I played through a lot of injuries. A lot of things happened to where I could have possibly missed games. I just, I loved playing so much that I didn't want to miss games. And then when you go for a while without missing games and you start getting up in those higher numbers, 80 games, 85, then you kind of start looking at it like, wow, man, I played almost 100 games and never missed. So now you're thinking about the streak. Well, heck, I can't miss now. Like you get a little nick or a knack, you're like, bro, I got to get this healthy because I can't get to 95 and miss it. I at least got to get to 100, you know what I'm saying? So I could be like, man, I played 100 straight games, right? Then once you get to 100, it's like, well, heck, man, like how far can this thing go, right? So that's kind of how it was, man. So yeah, a lot of hard work, a lot of blessings from God, man, a lot of protection, and I was able to do it, man. So it's actually a pretty cool thing to be able to say, that yeah, I missed one game in 10 years, and not just, I think in 2016 I played every defensive snap of the season. Didn't miss a single play in 2016. So,
That's
a couple cool little things, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like nowadays, I mean, like take the Ravens, for example. They had like 4 running backs that had season-ending injuries. I mean, before the season, and then I think in the preseason too. I mean, Julian Blackmon for the Colts just tore his Achilles in practice after he's becoming an up-and-comer safety in the league. I mean, injuries are popping off everywhere. It's ridiculous, but
Yeah,
part of the game.
Yeah, man, and they'll be doing studies, and I think a lot of it's gonna be, I don't know if it's be accurate, but I know the last couple of seasons, especially with the COVID and all that stuff, the off-season programs have been a little different, right? Been a little more virtual stuff, keeping guys out more. So then you don't really know kind of how much training these guys are doing at home on their own. And so then now they're coming back into training camp and they're trying to, get ready for the season, but they also kind of got to get guys in shape and this and this and that. And sometimes the body just, that machine is trying to get so much done and the body is not ready for it. And, these injuries happen. So I'm sure they'll be doing studies and say like, hey, 2020, 2021, COVID, lack of off season, the players might like not having the off seasons, but if they look at it and see like there was a significant amount more injuries like that, then, they're going to, as soon as, we get kind of clear from the COVID stuff, they're going to be back into those off-season programs.
I mean, I'm a Colts fan. I'm born and bred from Indy, so that's why I keep bringing up them. But, I mean, I want to know why the hell Bob Sanders kept getting hurt. I know you remember. I mean, he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. He would have stayed healthy. But I think he only played 1 year, 16 games.
Right. Well, I mean, Bob was a smaller guy, but his play style, he was, I don't want to say reckless, but he was a smaller guy, but he was a big hitter. And so, when you're taking on, all those big guys like that, it could be tough. And then, I think he had a situation where maybe he got popped one time with like some PEDs or something like that. So, a lot of times they kind of say if you're taking some of those different things, it could, increase your chance of injury. So I don't know. I mean, he was a fun player to watch when he was out there. I will say that. But when you're a little guy, man, you just taking on all these big dudes, man. Just gets tougher and tougher, man. The body's, it's hard, man, for the body to hold up.
I mean, how much of a blessing is it for you, not only to only miss one game in your career, but to actually reach that decade mark in the NFL when, the average career span is it's like 2.8 years or 3.3 or something in that range.
I mean, that was a huge goal for me, and that was really all I wanted to play. Even before I made it to the league, I really only wanted to play 10 years because, I wanted to live my life. I wanted, in the perfect world, I wanted to be able to play 10 years. And I used to always say, if I could walk off the field after my 10th season, it would take a whole lot for me to walk back on because in my eyes, I was like, if I can walk off the field, that means for one, I probably played in the game. And for two, I'm healthy, right? So if I'm healthy after playing this game for 10 years, I don't want to be greedy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm happy with my 10. I've given everything I can to my career. And now I'm still healthy enough to be able to enjoy the rest of my life with my kids. I want to be one of those guys that can go outside and play football and basketball and run around and like show my kids how to do stuff. I didn't want to be crippled because I tried to play 15 years when I could play 10, give it everything I got for those 10, save as much money as I can, and then walk away from the game and be cool with it. So to make it to 10 and in the fashion that I did, and like I said, playing in every game except for one, I felt real at peace when I got to that point where I was like, unless something great just fall in my lap, a great situation, I'm done with it.
Mm-hmm. First of all, congratulations on that, and I'm super happy that you were able to make it through the league and not have any of those things like you talked about. It's really sad to see. But you did retire fairly young. 33, so not super young, but not super old. You weren't playing till you were like 38, 39, like some guys do. But did you ever have that itch to try to go back out there at all?
Nah, not really, man. Like I said, I gave the game everything I really had, man. By the time I got to year 10, man, I was exhausted. I was drained. I was tired. And so when I kind of walked away, I really didn't have like the itch to like, hey man, I'm gonna keep training and hopefully one day I may feel like coming back. It was just kind of like, man, I'm done, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm done. And I remember earlier this season, it was funny. I was working out. I was in pretty good shape, man. And so I was talking to, some of my former coaches, and I was like, hey, man, I might train like NFL football train for about 2 months, and see how I feel come like November. And y'all may need somebody to help out on like a little playoff run. Pick up in December, play like 2 games, and go through the playoff. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I just never had the motivation to say I'm gonna go start football training again. Like, nah, I'm good.
Hey, fair. I don't blame you. That's a grind. I know Bernard Pollard was thinking about making a comeback as well. I don't know how serious you were about that, but Bernard Pollard was like serious about making a comeback, and then I don't think he got the opportunity. I haven't talked to him in a while, so I haven't asked
right.
him.
And Bernard is a good friend of mine. I played with Bernard, and I can't speak. I guess I don't know for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times you see it with players. A lot of times when the game is taken away, you really have the urge to go back for that closure.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk away, it's kind of like I already had closure because mentally I already knew when I went to Green Bay that last game, I already knew in my head that this was like my last game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I was taking photos. I had my camera out. Like I was really approaching that like it was my last game because I knew that I really didn't want to play after that year anyway. But a lot of times when guys get injured or things like that happen, and now the game kind of gets taken away from them,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get to like just walk away on their own. They just, you know what I'm saying? When they get healthy, they get in shape, they still have that urge to want to play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And, me knowing Bernard, I know that's exactly, how Bernard is. He always want to play. He feels like he's, in great shape. And so he, probably wanted to get back out there. That's Bernard, though. That's my guy. But it happens like that. Sometimes you get an opportunity, sometimes you don't. But it is what it is.
I was rooting for him hard because he's a Purdue guy.
Right.
I go to Purdue too, and I've had him on the podcast, so I was really rooting for it, but things didn't pan out like we said.
Right.
One other thing I want to talk about was kind of your transition to life after football. I read an article. I remember. You saved like 70% of your money. From the league, and was able to use that for your retirement fund and just be fiscally conservative with your money. Where did you kind of learn those those skills and that discipline that it takes to do that too?
I mean, for me, I didn't grow up with, a ton of money, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it just was kind of one of those things where it's like, some people had a mindset, I've never had this stuff. So when I get money, I want to get it. And I was kind of like, I never really had it and I made it this far. So, I mean, I don't really need it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you live your life, you spend, money, you treat yourself, you do things like that. But like I said, for me, I had a plan. A lot of guys, they feel like they're going to play the game forever, and so they kind of live that way. I knew I only wanted to play for 10. And I remember being younger and I was watching 30 for 30 or some show or whatever. But I remember listening to John Randall. He was saying, he's like, the goal in the NFL, and I wasn't even in the league at the time, I don't think. But he was like, the goal in the NFL is to win as many rings as you can, make as much money as you can, as quick as you can, and get out. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that kind of like resonated with me. Like, okay, I want to do everything I can, make as much money as I can, as quick as I can, save as much as I can, win as much as I can, do everything I can, and then get out. So that was kind of my goal, my mindset. I wanted to feel good and comfortable walking away after 10 years. I didn't want to feel like, all right, man, I kind of blew a lot of money in like years 1 and 2, so I kind of need to play another 2 years to like try to recoup some of that so I can be in a better position come year 10, and then that would have had me out there for 12 years, and I didn't want to do 12, I wanted to do 10, so that was just kind of how it was, man, and I had some good people around me to help me and, put some good plans in place, and, I was able to do pretty good in that aspect. And, so then when I retired, I didn't feel the need to have to run out and try to find another job or, do things like that. I really was able to like relax, figure out exactly what you want to do, get a couple different hobbies and, just have fun and just kind of pick up wherever you want to pick up at. And then all of a sudden, you start to realize what you're really passionate about, what you really want to do, and then you just go do it.
100%. I mean, for me, it would be really hard if I got that first or even that second contract. I mean, I think there's a real issue with guys having yes men around them that won't sit them down and be like, hey, you need to get your stuff together. You can't be doing all this money. You'd be like, oh, should I buy this boat? And they're like, yeah, let's buy the boat. You know what I'm saying? It's like you need someone there. I mean, like you mentioned, you had a good support system around you to, if you did make a mistake with money or whatever the case may be, they would be there to be like, hey, let's get it together.
Right. And I definitely feel like that's necessary and needed, because, a lot of these guys are young and, you get a lot of money thrown at you at a young age. And, some people have these desires and things they've always wanted. Now they got the money to pay for it. And, they want to get those things. And, my whole thing was, I still can get those things. It's just, instead of buying that boat at 24, let me buy that boat at 34 when I've saved up my money. And now, I'm buying that boat off interest payments that I'm making off the money that I've saved, as opposed to I bought the boat at 24 off my principal money. And now I don't have, more money to save up and live off of. So it's kind of the same thing. You get all the same luxuries and all that stuff. It's just some people do it earlier in life, some people do it later in life. It's kind of a balance because none of us know how long we're gonna be on this earth. So it's kind of a balance. But you definitely gotta have a plan for it. And my grandpa used to always tell me to live like you're gonna die tomorrow, but prepare like you're gonna be here forever. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Damn, I need to start using that. Shout out to your grandpa. I know we went over time, so I apologize for that. But I just had one last thing for you. Obviously, you played for the Lions for a good chunk of your career. I mean, what do you make of what the organization's current state is. Obviously, they just went 0-7 yesterday, and I mean, what is that fan culture like in Detroit? They've been kind of deprived of massive success for so long.
Yeah, I mean, the fans out there are really cool, man. They're definitely behind you, when you're winning and stuff like that. It's just like you said, it's been a tough road for them. So, at this stage right now, I mean, they could have some hope because they got a new coach. They want to give them some time. But at the end of the day, when it's been bad for so long, the minute it starts to kind of get that way, you start to hear like, oh, these are the same old guys, same old, you know what I'm saying? And, my time there, I used to always try to say like, don't, put the 1995 lines on the 2015 lines. Like, this is totally, like, nobody on this team had anything to do with what happened in 1995 or 2004 or whatever, right? It's a new team every single year, and you need that positivity, that belief, all those things. You don't need that we're going into the season, but the fans are already like, well, I know the Lions always break my heart. You guys are always going to do that. And it's like, no, like, it's a different team, So you got to take each year, for what it is. But, it's been a tough road for Lions fans. And, obviously going 0-7 at this point with Green Bay being 6-1. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to win a division. And, now you can only go 9-7. That's winning every single game. So it's probably going to be very difficult to make a wild card. And so now you start looking like, man, it's not even November yet, and our season is basically over, right? So now you got guys who, going to be free agents. So, they got to fight, hey, we're still the team, all right? Some guys start thinking about contracts and not wanting to, do this, want to make sure they're healthy or want to become selfish so they can try to make more plays. It get cold out there. So now it's like, heck, man, I got to go outside and practice in the cold and we're 0-12. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of different things that's going to come up that hopefully they can that they can get through and continue to build and, see what happens. It's tough, but from what I hear, I don't know Dan personally. I know the D coordinator, Aaron, from out here in Houston, but we'll see. We'll see how those guys finish the season and the type of offseason that they have going into next year.
I think a lot of Lions fans think that they're cursed just because of the whole Calvin Johnson situation, which kind of took an ugly turn again recently at his Pro Bowl or not Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame ceremony.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, man. I kind of stay out of all that stuff, man. I love my Lions fans. They were good. They were good to me. We had a good time, my time there. So I tried to leave it that way.
For sure. Can't blame you. But hey, I'm gonna wrap this up so you can get going. Thank you so much for coming on and being real and sharing your experiences.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Stay safe.
All right, man.